Test mic 1 2 3. Test. 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 1 2 3. Okay, so we're good to go. Okay, so tonight we'll be proceeding with this painting. So if you can see, I've already painted some of the oranges there. You can see the yellows are still there, and this part still left unpainted. And kinda kept this area here greenish. That's basically a desaturated yellow. So I don't know what I'm gonna do right now, but I just want to talk about light. Something that I've learned, that like when you look for light energy, right? The amount of the strength of the light. Like for example, at you start from purple, right, towards black, right? So purple to black. Purple light is ultraviolet light, something we don't see actually. So we just start from, maybe we start from blue light, okay? So from blue light, we jump down to white. And the lower the energy, it goes to yellow. So it becomes a yellow light. And from yellow, we go to the red light. No, basically yellow, orange, and then red, then black. So basically, in the shadow, when you look at the shadows in the darkness, right? When you look at in the darkness, you can see red in the darkness. So the darkness is actually a little bit reddish. And why? Because the red light wave, there's the frequency there, ensures that we can still see red in the darkness. So basically, I think it's a low, I don't remember it, but the important thing there is for us is when we turn, right, to the darkness, as we turn like a 45-degree angle from the light. For example, here our light is coming from, I think it's coming from here basically, as we can see the shadow falling towards her face here. Then most of this is like her nose, so most likely the light is coming through at this angle. Most of this are in shadow, right? So basically, this one is 0. This is a 90-degree to a lower degree angle, right? So basically the light is not going through here anymore. So basically the light is not coming from here. At minimum, it's coming from here, but most likely it's at this angle, firing down here, right? So this is below 90 degrees. So when the light, as the light falls off, the energy of the light falls off, it becomes from white. For example, we have a white light. In this example, we have a yellow light, right? So from the yellow light, as we turn, it becomes more reddish. Turns into the darkness, the light becomes reddish, then towards black. But there's no black really here because we have a backlight here, right? So there's a YouTuber that explains this. I think he's an illustrator and he studies a lot of that. But you can also find this in CG rendering. But basically, the light energy has an effect to the light. That's why sometimes when you see a skin, right? But there's a lot of factors when calculating. It's just that one part of the light so that it becomes warmer as it goes into the dark. Energy. The lower the energy, the more red there is. The light becomes more reddish. So when you go into, say, a dark room, mostly red there. It's very subtle. Like our consciousness only sees blackness, darkness. But actually, if you bring, like, for example, a red object and a yellow object, the red object becomes more like apparent there. How does that apply to us? For me, I use it in creating shadow colors. Like I always think that as I go below value 5, like I reach value 7, value 8, I always ensure that there's a red there or an orange in the mix. It helps in the darkening of the color. For example, if my base color is this yellowish, as I turn, I add more. My shadow is not just plain gray or plain darkness, plain black. I add like orange, just a little bit, like burnt umber, right? Then as it turns into the darkness, I add more red there. That's why for Leonardo da Vinci, his shadows, he always advised to add red and black in his shadows. So, if you followed my principles when creating shadows here is that I color the base tone. I color it with the shadow color. So the more shadow color I add to it, the more it becomes dark, right? So if I want, like, say here, it's like not very dark to me, right? If I want to turn this form, I'll just add my darkness a little bit, which has burnt umber and black in it, but not too much black because there's reflected light here that's coming through here. So this is not totally, like, the light energy here is about like 80%, because as we turn the shape, the angle, like let's say the light is coming from up here, down straight. So this is our plane, right? This is the surface. As we turn here, the light energy is not affected too much until we reach 45 degrees. As we reach 45 degrees from the light, right? So the light that's coming from up, down, and the angle difference is 45, right? The light energy falls down to about 20%. That's 45 degrees, 20%. Then as we go down more angle away, it goes like faster. So it's like exponential decrease. So 20%, 25%, as we go down until it reaches 90 degrees. This is 180. 90 degrees away, then it becomes black. It's zero. So there's no light. The light that's falling down is no longer hitting the surface. As you reach up again, it immediately takes on energy. Like it immediately takes on light, so it's 80% light again. I'll just share the chart next time. I'll need to print it out. So the important thing is, as we turn, because when we, like in the past, right, when we're trying to shade and color, like we think that there's a lot of changes in color as the shape turns, right? So as the shape turns, like for example here, this is just a slight turn. We think that there's a lot of light energy that's lost there, but actually there's not. There's only about like maybe 5% light loss as it turns away. So the desaturation of this is very slight desaturation. Just as we turn, we lose light, right? And as we lose light, we lose energy and we lose vibrancy, right? There's very subtle difference between here and here. Between here and here, this should be brighter, right? Being hit by the light, like mostly this is like the flat zero angle perpendicular to the light, right there. So this should be lighter. And as it turns here to the 45 degrees, then we lose. No, this is not 45 degrees. This is just a small amount. So although we don't get reflected light from here, because here this is going to be even more brighter, not only because it's hit directly by the light, so we have pure color here. There's also the reflection of the light because of the oil over skin. So it's going to be even more brighter because it's reflecting the light now. It serves like a mirror. It's even more brighter. But since it's not a very like wet surface, it's a skin, then the reflection will be like spread out, right? So it looks like natural color, but it's not really the reflection of the light. But then as we come here, this is like slightly off, maybe 15 degrees to the light compared to the light here. It's not really 45 degrees. This would be 90. Oh, okay, it's 45 degrees, let's say. Yeah. Here. So we're just losing like 20% energy. So if we lost that much, then if our light is yellow, then we're just gonna get an orange light. This becomes warmer compared to this. This would be like yellow, receiving yellow light, and this one would be taking like a slightly orange tint because of the energy of the light is less here. Becomes warmer. Then as we turn away here, it loses the yellow light is lost, and all we have is the red. Right? So here, this should be warmer here. It's darker and redder here. If there was no surface here to bounce some light, this would be in this color maybe, like here, right? So it's a dark color mixed with the skin, but it has more red in it. But then the color of the skin is desaturated because it's lost some light, 90%. Only the light now is keeping this like reddish. And here it's a little bit of red here, or orange. That's because the light is penetrating the skin, and it's making this surface glow actually. If I put this camera closer in, what I did, instead of just plainly creating this same color here, the desaturated color, I added the orange here. So I added more orange here. Compared to this is duller than this, right? So like we discussed before, this becomes something that's glowing now, right? So that's one way to think of how light is affecting the image. And so when we look at photos, we can actually see this, but in reality, these things are very subtle in real life. So as artists, it is our job, maybe not, okay, but it can be in our freedom to enhance these things, make these things more prominent, more visible. It depends. It gives you more interest in your work, instead of just making this look like someone who has makeup. I actually hopefully hopefully made it so that the skin looks like it doesn't have makeup blocking the light from penetrating. You can notice that in videos and photos. Like if a person has a lot of thick makeup in her face, you'll notice, because when the light strikes their skin, there's no glow in it, right? It's just a fake, like a pink color. So we can actually notice that, right? In real life, we're looking at people, like if they're filled with makeup, their faces, you can actually notice that, well, her face looks like it has cake on it. It has powder on it. In our paintings, we can use that information, help us like mix our shadow color, mix our light color, right? So for example, right here, as I turn away from the light, I reduce the red, right? So it becomes more black, more dull. Then I don't know, I'm not sure about this. I have to see first. I have to paint this first to see if this is too dull, or maybe it's just enough color. I don't know if that's you got the idea. My brain is not very organized today because there's been a lot of things on my mind. But I just wanted to put it out there that light has impact on the surface. Like the color of the light has a lot to do with what we see, right? If we are in the daylight, so it's a bluish light, right? In the daylight, we see this bluish light. If it hits our skin, then the skin will appear to have like a bluish tint to it, right? And if you're in the candlelight, which is like a yellow orangey color light, our skin will be more have that tint too, right? And then as it turns to the shadow, you notice that the shadow is a little bit red, right? So light has a lot to do, but we always maintain the skin color. So depending on the race, the skin color can be like yellowish, it can be pinkish, can be olive color, it can be purplish brown, reddish brown, right? There's a lot of skin colors, but then all of those skin colors becomes a little bit redder because of the blood. So like for example here, this is an Asian woman, so she has like a pale yellow skin, right? And that's because of the melatonin that's on the skin. They have white skin, but they have a strong melanin content, so it becomes yellow, right? This yellowish, as it gets colored by the blood, it becomes orange because of the red of the blood. So, but here in this picture, it's not very obvious simply because of the light color that I've used. Right, so the color here is a little bit yellowish, so everything here is tainted by yellow. So even in the shadows, there's a little bit of yellow there and red. Because some of these parts look dirty right now because this is blue. And I don't think this belongs here. Maybe this area is too desaturated, right? But I have to see what I color this. I'm not sure what color to use here in the background. Did I use purple? Maybe because yellow and purple are like a contrast. So if I use purple as the background color to the yellow light, then it might look better or good. So to mix, where's my dark brown color? So when we mix our shadow color, if we rely on black, like bone black, or maybe Mars black is a little bit red, right? But that's too dull. Maybe add a little bit, some red to it, to give it like a vibrant energy in it. So if we create shadows right there, the skin color, it needs to go down in value without losing saturation first, right? So from yellow, we go to the mid, which is value 5. So we add, maybe you can add like a raw umber, but that would make it a little bit greenish, so you could add a little bit burnt umber there. But here, this is not pure yellow anymore, right? There's a little bit of pinkish color there, but Some people would say this is still yellow, but if you're honest, it's not really pure yellow. So it's yellow ochre plus a little bit of orange. Even if it looks greenish, there is a mixture of that. There's this like illusions, right? They say that the same colors in different contexts appear the same, but they're not really the same. There's a slight difference to them. Um, it's a conspiracy, actually. People say a lot of things to make their statements like be remembered, but that's not how it works. That's not how color context works. Unless if you don't have a trained eye, then you will assume, your brain actually assumes things, but it only can see clearly the color at the right context. Like for example, the context color is affected by its surroundings because it emphasizes or emphasizes a certain color mixed within the color. For example, this has a greenish color here, right? That is only, it looks greenish because of the bluish here, and the red, the yellow here. Not that that's not green, it is green, but I can see it clearly because of this blue. It's the comparison between this blue and this clarifies that this is a green mixed into that orange. But if there's no blue here, this might appear blue to my assumption in my brain because it wants to correct, right, color here. But because of this color can't escape now. So that's the function of context is clarification. It's not delusion, right? So if we take out all the context, then we assume that those two boxes have the same color. But when we pick them, there's a lot of like visual illusions like that, right? They're not actually correct when you look closely. I think there was another one, like it's funny really sometimes people make things like that. There was this experiment, I think, about the boxes and stuff. I don't know what's wrong with those people. You can obviously see the difference. It's just that the light. But when they isolate the picture, then of course we think that that's a pink dress, right? But when you open up the context, then we see everything. We see the context because there's comparison. We can compare, and it clarifies. Right? I'm not trying to diss someone's statement. I'm just saying that what they propose usually are over exaggeration. What's actually there? Just an exaggeration. Anyway, that's not important. The important lesson there, I think, with all those like illusions and tricks, that our brains kind of make up things to fix things. Like we want things to look a certain way because it's what's correct. So we compensate. Even if we're seeing green, our brain tells us that it's blue, so it's all right. Just move on with your life. That's what it does. It makes things. It tries to make things convenient, and so we can move on. We don't get like tricked. Get distracted. I want to try something today. Uh, I'll use a desaturated orange here. See if it works. I'll be using this color. You can see it. Camera. To replace this, but I'm a little bit worried. It kind of competes with the same brown here. So I don't want to lose the warmth that's here. But also I want it to be grayish. I have to think. Because the effect that I'm looking for here is this warmth comes from subsurface scattering that's happening here. I guess instead of making that less warm, maybe we can make this warmer. It's like a pink flesh color. It's it's called a portrait tone, but it's basically just orange oxide. Mm, I don't know. Very subtle. Yes, it's too subtle. Oh, white here. Mix that into that. See what we get. This brush is a little too small. I need a mixer brush for this. You don't have to use just one brush. You can use a mixer brush, a blender brush actually. This maybe to blend stuff. Like in digital painting. Becomes warmer. I'm bringing in more white to the equation. Here I'm gonna bring more white there. See what's going to happen. Now don't be scared when painting, because we can always cover. We just look for the right value, the right hue, right saturation. You can always recover. You can always come back. Sometimes those happy accidents are even desired. Like we said before, we want to lighten this up here. What we get if we build on the context here of actually have a white light. White light shining. If you notice, when I spread the color, it turns into a pinkish color. It also has the influence of the paint below, simply because I basically, if it's called glazing, but it's painting semi-transparent onto a dried surface. Not mixing colors here. You're painting on an additional color. And this is what actually helps you create like sfumato, because it allows you to spread out color fast without mixing. So you can create like glowing effects. Like here, you can create walls to glow because there's a color underneath. Light that's whitish color glowing on top of it. That there. Treatment there. See what we get. Now that we have white light on the surface, how does the green here look? Correct? Does it still look dirty? Actually, to be honest, I'm a little bit torn now, like which direction to go. Did I go painterly style? Did I go the classical sun style? My brain is actually unsure how to render things. Simple matter kinda becomes more complicated when I'm doing it, because one part of my mind is trying to make things smooth, smoky, and then the other part is trying to create brush strokes. Those things don't go together. The smoky one cannot accept like hard hard shifts from one color to another, from one value to another. Like there's a difference trying to render in the sfumato technique, sfumato effect. I don't think it should be called a technique. It should be called an effect. Sfumato is not a method, so it's not a technique. It's actually an appearance. Achieving sfumato can be uh, through multiple techniques, or sfumato itself is not a technique. Visual effect. So it's maybe it's a technique in terms of how you like depict something or illustrate something. But in terms of an artist making something, it's not a technique. It's effect. Mato effect. It's a glazing technique which you achieve sfumato. Yeah. Sfumato is something you achieve through a technique. It's not a technique itself, but when you look at the work in terms of how things are displayed, how things are made to appear, then it becomes a technique. Then we can argue that it's a style instead of a technique. Mechanical terms, it's the technique, how something is described. I'm like dabbing the white through here. I want to leave some of the color below. I don't want to color it fully white. I want to leave the chaos underneath there. Keep it natural. We can go into the pores and stuff, but I'm not gonna do too crazy. It's too much. There's a level of realism, a hyper realism, and there's realism. Realism in terms of what's being described, how it's being described, like an appropriate level. You can say that it's realism. And there's a level that when you reach that type of depiction of something real, becomes an interpretation now. No longer depicting what's real, depicting how you interpret what's real. About the artist now, it's not about right. This is what I usually say before. Hyperrealism is like using math to describe a reality. Formulas and equations. You're basically showing everything to create. You're making everything create an appearance, right? Something like you add all the pores, add all the nuance in purple, yellow, orange color there, which then creates the appearance. You look at it from far away, an appearance of skin. Also another way, like you create an appearance that implies that the elements become abstracted. There's only a certain elements reality that you depict such that it's still recognizable by the brain, something real. Doesn't actually have the details, the brain still accepts it as like when we're looking at something at a glance, don't actually see all the pores and stuff of the face unless we go like near to that guy, examine every inch of his skin. When you look at someone, we can actually, without having to detail all the skin pores and stuff, like we can make something that our brain accepts as something else, like looking like it's live, without having to paint all of that. By just using colors, the right places. Using the right colors at the right places, at a certain level, then at that threshold, our brain accepts it as, okay, that thing, I know that's something real, because I've seen that before at a glance. If you look at skin like in under a microscope, it doesn't actually look real anymore, because we don't see that every day. It becomes weird, gross, like our brain goes into this uncanny valley. That's not, although it's really there, what we interact with. Details there is there to produce the effect our brain interprets as real. But without those details, though, in real life, you don't get the reality. See? And we don't get our brains will not reduce things. Like if our skin look like painting like this in real life, right? If our faces like actually look like this, that you have like brush strokes and certain color pigments here there, our brain is going to like convert it to something else. What would we will be painting something other than something like this, other than this. Our paintings will look different because reality has changed. Our reality, pores, the skin, the hyper detail, there to produce an effect, right? It produces an effect. Then our brain takes that data and then reduces it, compresses it to give us information about faces, about skin, about people. When we're painting, we don't have to paint all of those in details to make our brain accept something as real. So we can, and then if we look at them like from a close distance, it looks weird, right? But from afar, then it looks correct. we don't have to go into that much detail for our brains to say like, okay, yep, that's a face. If we reduce too much, that we reach to a point that it becomes like abstract, and it's no longer real. An interpretation now. It's abstract. So it depends on how much of something is depicted, what how our brain like accepts them, take them. There's no escaping it. No escaping it, because that's how our brain works. The purpose of my brains is to interpret reality for us. Plus interpretation of reality. Like the truth is, reality has more to it, right? Things that we are not seeing, we're not hearing. More to reality than we experience it, but we're just ignoring it. We're not interacting with a lot of things in reality, but it's there. It's not, we're not interacting with it. It's creating, it's part of what we're interacting with. We're just not like recognizing it. Like ultraviolet light, it's there. Without ultraviolet light, things will look different. It's the same way with art. Okay, so what's the difference? Given that there's light now, white light added, how does it look? Does it look better than before? Is the light color change? Can we still say that our light is yellow light, or it's not changed? Are we still under light, yellow light? Or are we now in bright white light? Does this look correct now? The background look correct? Does it still look too dull, such that it looks like there's a lot of dust there behind? It's like pollution. Smog behind her. Does it look like smog? 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 Like somebody is cooking behind her. This black brown smoke coming from behind her? Or is it correct? Does her skin here look correct? Her skin here look correct? Look like she has mud on her face. Yeah? If this area looks muddy, means that we need to brighten that, bring more color to that. Like it's too desaturated, so it kind of looks like there's dust in there or smoke, black smoke or something. So to fix that, we need to bring more color there, saturation. To fix that. So here, if this looks dirty, looks like she has mud on her face, like a cake mud on her face, then that means it's too desaturated. So we need to bring more color there. So we need to raise up the saturation of this color. So currently this one is like a dull brown. So we're gonna need to bring that up higher, not in value. It's the same darkness, but more color. Maybe we'll add a little bit of red there, or orange there. Here, the skin, maybe we need to bring up this yellow a little bit more. Instead of it looking like this dull, maybe we can increase the value a little bit, bring more color to it. This here too. This here, maybe we can add more orange here, because there's a strong light hitting her face here now, meaning we now have the opportunity to make this warmer here to show that her skin here has blood, right? And we can make this warmer here, or warm, right? So now this looks duller than before. Before we added this value, this one looked orange and bright, right? This one like this, but now it looks like dull. We didn't even touch that. It looks dull because these colors here, light, telling us that this one needs to have more color now because of all of this light. Anyway, that's it for me for now. I'm very sleepy. So I hope you have a good rest of your day. And I'll see you next time.